Good morning and welcome to the CADclass podcast. I'm Josh.
I'm Jake.
And I didn't screw it up. Yo!
Yay! You did it. First time.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, nailed it. We're getting so good at this.
1 episodes. I'm so good at it.
Oh, so good. Unfortunately, you did screw something else up, which then negates the original bit.
You know, we didn't have to
charge the camera battery. And now we get this really lovely.
You get to. It looks like I'm looking down on everybody here.
I know.
So hello, everybody. Tiny. Yeah. But good morning, Cornelia, Connie. Printed by John. Grandpa Makes, Ken, Dan, and those of you in the chat. It is always so lovely to have you. I've seen, by the way, some of those challenges rolling in from last week. Mm-hmm. Plus, Connie was like pretty excited about it. We did say 2 weeks for that last challenge. Yes. So 2 weeks. And we definitely want to see what you're making with either the hydroponics towers. I think Ed popped in there and had a bunch of other little fun ideas. There's just all kinds of cute, innovative, fun things to do with plants. So we're still excited to see all of that.
Yeah. Printed by John saying, "Where's the blue glasses, Josh?" I didn't even notice.
Oh.
Let me
Uno
show
momento,
you. Give me 1 second.
Por favor. I can hear my amazing Spanish. ¿Qué pasa, amigos?
So fluent. So fluent. Hey, there we go. Damn,
don't you worry about it.
It's so funny. With those glasses on, I now trust you to be my architect.
You know, that's what I was going for. You know, I was going for pretentious is what I was going for.
Yeah,
so,
I feel like when you graduate, when you become an architect, you get a silly pair of glasses and a ponytail.
A professor.
And I've got many architects in my family, and that is completely true thing.
In all honesty, I was looking for like really tiny circular lenses that actually fit my face. So for those of you who don't know, I have a micro face. It's approximately I have a tiny little head, and I buy kid-sized glasses. And I was looking for like tiny little frames for my tiny little head, and would you know, I couldn't find them. All of them would look so silly. But we've got a graduate
with our graduates.
Yeah. So I'm loving the increased frequency
week in a row now
with which people are graduating our program. Fantastic. So David Dickens claims, and I see him in the chat from time to time, says he listens and tunes into the pod every week. I'm not seeing him in here yet, but maybe he's going to listen to the replay as well. So shout out to David Dickens. David is over at Google and gave us just the nicest review, said it's one of the best classes he's ever taken, and thank you so much. And he refers it to all of his friends, and it was just glowing and gushing. And I was like, cool. We're doing it, Jake. We're doing it. People like some of the stuff that we do. So I can never have enough of that feedback. I mean, obviously we want to hear the stuff that isn't great also. Yeah. But it's always a little boost to feel like we're on the right track. We're providing some value. People are liking what we're doing. But most importantly, shout out to you, David. This is not a simple program.
Task.
It is not light. This is not one of those online courses that you just finish in a couple of days and then you feel great about yourself. So kudos, shout out to you for finishing everything in the course. A huge congratulations. I cannot wait to see what you make. By the way, he has started both an eBay and an Etsy store as a result of what he learned. And he mentioned that in that final review of the course.
That's pretty awesome. Just for a scale for anyone who doesn't realize, we've had quite a few professors from inside the US and outside in community college and NSUs, and who said, "Oh yeah, we teach your class in our class. We use your textbook," and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's fantastic." They don't get through our entire course in their semester. It's a multi-semester. Honestly, if you to go through our course in a collegiate or a university environment, it's literally like a year's worth of classes to finish our course.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So it's like when we have people that graduate, it is a very sincere graduation. Like it makes us so happy because we know just what of a mountain it is to get over.
It's no joke. And you know, the hope is that by doing that, then you know, our dreams, I think when we first started this, were always how do we inspire people to bring their ideas to life and then maybe start businesses. We had some stupid business ideas in the beginning, like business in a box.
No,
What?
none of them was stupid. We just haven't
Yeah,
got to
we
them
never.
yet.
we just haven't found the right execution yet.
Mhm.
But it was always our dream when we were building this that we would inspire people to launch businesses and build products for other businesses and really kind of inspire that entrepreneurial I can do it attitude. And so hearing not only that he graduated, but that he started an eBay and an Etsy store and they're both profitable, I kind of have it in the back of my head that if somebody takes our course and they pay full price for it, that I hope they can make enough money by the end of it to have paid for the course at the very least.
Oh, completely.
Right. So like we've inspired enough of those ideas. And speaking of which, Printed by John is here, Jake.
Mhm.
You had a
And I
nice little
had a
chat with Printed by
fantastic
John.
conversation with him.
You
So
wanna
he's
talk
one of
about
the he's one of the younger guys in our community, already a fantastic designer, already got machines that already paid for by his designs, which is just mind-blowing. And basically just chatting about he wants to be more in the entrepreneurish side, which makes me so happy. And I'm just so unbelievably bloody excited to see where he goes with it. And every single time that we have people who actually then develop some products and sell it, there's no consistency on age. We've had people who, I've been working on classic cars my whole life, and I really like this one car, and I've made this one piece that isn't manufactured anymore, and I sell thousands of them per month. And it's just like an old geezer. And then we've had kids, literal children, and then we've had young adults, and it is such a fantastic, it's such a fantastic growth. So I don't know what we want to do, but Josh and I, obviously, we want to uplift the people in our community so much, especially the young people who are saying, I want to take the skill set that I learned with 3D printing, potentially, it's not always necessary, and actually start a business and really help them grow in any which way we can. So nothing is set yet. Printed by John, we're working on it. Don't worry. We've got you in the back of our minds.
I want to shout out young people a little bit extra here for just a second because I've got this
young people.
I've got this thought. Because you know, they're not, I don't even want to call them kids, right? So
No.
But I've
I
got
think
this
young adults is perfect.
young adults, young people.
Yeah. Youngins.
In the back of my head, I think speaking directly to you, people who want to start businesses, who are like David, our youngest entrepreneur that we know of, and there may be younger ones in our audience that we're not aware of, is 10 and now has his items in, I believe, actually 3 stores. And teaser alert, we're going to have our youngest entrepreneur on this podcast in one of the upcoming episodes. We are going to sit down with 10-year-old David, and we're going to talk all things 3D printing, CAD, and selling physical products in stores. Because he's got that experience and we don't.
With his mum probably off screen.
Yeah, totally. So we are going to bring him in.
I don't know the answer.
But what I want to say to the young entrepreneurs in our audience is you have the opportunity to learn and be better with more access to information, more available resources than have ever existed before. You have this opportunity not just to be better, but to be absolutely spectacular and learn an incredible amount of things if you can do one thing really well, and that is learn to manage where you put your attention. Because there's a duality happening in our world. There's one side where you go down the rabbit hole of TikTok and mindless scrolling and infinite doom loops, basically, and you get nothing out of it, and you have no value, and you basically come out the other side feeling like you just consume junk food. But then there's the opposite side of this, where if you can manage to hone your attention and focus on something for a given period of time, then you are going to be so much better than the people who have come before you. And I'm hearing this with some of the entrepreneurs who are hiring young people to come work in their companies. And they're saying the ones that are good are like off the charts good. And the ones that aren't so good are having trouble focusing and managing their attention. So to you young entrepreneurs in our audience, the choice is yours for how you spend your time. spend it learning and growing and building and making
Mm-hmm.
amazing things, and you will live an amazing life. End of rant.
Yeah. That was quite sweet. We talk about investments quite a lot here, and there is literally, seriously, no better investment than investing in yourself. Like putting money away in a bank and letting it grow when you're young, fantastic, wonderful, everyone should do it. But sincerely investing in yourself to develop a better skill set is, it is innumerable how much more valuable it is. It's incredible. And yeah, so again, any young people, entrepreneurs, business people who want to get into it,
Do it.
So excited for you, so stoked.
You don't need permission. You don't need to ask anybody permission. No. You just need to do it.
Ask
and
for
Printed by
forgiveness.
John, who's in here right now, is one shining example of that. Printed by John is doing amazing stuff. Keep up the amazing work, John, if that's actually your name. Is that actually his name? Is John his name? Okay. It'd be funny if his name was like Ted.
It's going to be like Charles.
It's like Ted or Charles, yeah.
Yeah. The one thing that we have noticed between all of these young entrepreneurs that we talk to, the one key word that keeps on popping up in my head is that they're hungry. Every single one of them has got this fantastic frequency of, I want to learn more, I want to do this, I want to do that. And there's so many people, especially that I've kind of encountered. I feel like when I was a young person, I was fantastically hungry for learning new skills, new tools.
Jake, you're still businesses. A young person. What are you talking about? All right, keep going. I didn't mean to derail you.
And all of these people, all of these young people that we talk to, they are so hungry and they've got so many different things that they want to do. And when I was growing up, there was definitely a lot of external factors that were like, nah, don't do that. You shouldn't do that. And I completely wished I would have, just ignored them and gone, nah, never mind. I'm just going to jump into it.
I'm just going to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to sincerely encourage, and then have some internal forces to push them into that, because that's what I would have wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So Printed by John says it's actually Jonathan. Well, that still counts. That still counts.
It still counts. Yeah.
Yeah. You're still a John if we just cut it off a little bit.
I say that people call me Jacob, and I'm like, no, it's not my name.
Ooh.
I remember I think I broke a bone when I was in school and went to the school nurse, and she called my mum and gone, hello, I have a young Jacob here. And my mum goes, I don't know anyone called Jacob, and hung up. He called her back and goes, oh, I have Jake here. And she goes, oh yeah, what's wrong with my son? So good. In a slightly derailed thing, just some news on the march. Prusa, very famously a Czech Republic European company, who's done all of their manufacturing in Central Europe, is now expanding to US manufacturing. I think they're currently doing it right now. So hopefully that should be way better options for us here, because there's some really funky stuff going on as far as the shipping and all of that. Like if you want to get a replacement nozzle for one of these machines for an MK4, I'll actually show you because it's easy to see. The nozzle is actually soldered, if I can cover up my face, is actually soldered onto this metal bar itself. So you can't just trade out the nozzle. You have to trade out the entire mechanism. And this isn't tremendously inexpensive. It's like $20. But the shipping is like $35, which sucks. It's like, damn. Okay, fine. I will get this and some other stuff, which I get it. That's, But hopefully with US manufacturing, that will make it significantly easier. And hopefully we'll see a little bit of some pushback from the Prusa crew, which is always really, really nice. But in opposition to that, Bamboo Studio put out a tweet a couple weeks ago when we weren't doing our podcast that I wanted to talk about. And it was fantastically vague. It was super duper vague. And it was all about essentially them teasing a printer that they're going to be manufacturing early next year. And all they said is that it's going to be, I think they said, believe $3,000 to $5,000. So and they said it's going to be using technology that no other company is using. And it's, they said, really sincerely going to be pushing the bounds of 3D printing technology. So I think everyone was wanting a really kind of max size bamboo printer for a little while, but I don't know if that's coming. But if they're pricing it that high, good lord, because I think a load of people were essentially just holding their money in their pockets, going, maybe they're going to release something that's just a little bit more expensive than the carbon. It's maybe $1.50 or whatever, and and it's going to be fantastic, and I'll save my money until then. And this is them basically quelling the waters, going, that's not our market. It's going to be something even more substantially huge. So who knows? Peter Van Vliet said a tool changer, potentially. There's some people that we're talking about. It might be a metal 3D printer. Who knows? Because 3D printed
metal
titanium
3D printer would be so interesting. If they could actually drive the price of metal 3D printing down, I think that would be.
It's currently in the
$10,000
plus range, but Bamboo has kind of made a hallmark for making, high quality and vastly cheaper than the professional market coming down. Because if you compare Bamboo to Stratasys, for example, fantastically cheaper. So I'm really interested by this. There's a real shift with that. That's gonna be really cool.
I wonder. Yeah, I'm like racking my brain for what it could be. Metal would be honestly like at home. Metal would be unreal. I think even not even just at home, but like bringing that price of metal printing down.
If they do a tool changer similar to the Prusa Max, is that what it's called? Prusa Max?
Prusa XL.
XL, that's it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Essentially, the idea is that you've got multiple tool heads, so you don't need to purge the filaments in between color changes. So one of the big downsides of Bamboo is that just for even a very relatively small model, every single layer you have to purge colors constantly, and so you create a huge amount of waste. Sometimes multiples of the amount of filament going into your model. And there's ways to work around it, but it's generally that sucks. You end up with a big, huge trash bin full of plastic, and you just kind of go, oh, this doesn't feel great. Where the Prusa XL kind of dominates that is that because they can have multiple hot ends or multiple filaments coming into it, they don't need to purge anywhere near as much. They still need to do a tiny amount just for oozing, but really nothing short. But obviously significantly higher price range, and I think much bigger than any of the X1 carbons. So that may be Bamboo's response. And if they're going for 3 to 5K, then that's still on level with the XL. So
yeah, I really do wonder. Dan says, how much metal would you print? I think that's a valid question. I don't honestly know is the answer. And maybe, I think expanded material capabilities in general is a really interesting idea. Like, how could you do metals and plastics right in one printer?
Ceramics would be rad, but again, that's pretty tiny.
And ceramics as well. Like, how much would I realistically use to print ceramics? Like, I guess I would print a cup or two here and there. I could imagine a couple use cases, right? I could imagine.
But then you would then need an oven to fire it. They may be doing something like, we want to print, because there are some. Okay, when you're looking at like uber duper expensive 3D printers that are like $100,000 just for the machine itself, one of the reasons that they're so expensive is legacy costs. Have been around since the 1970s, but also because they print these unbelievably high-tech engineered plastics. Like, they can print Kevlar. Of course, that's very desirable for a lot of different industries, and not something that you can print on an Ender 3. So they can print super duper high temperature plastic, super rough plastic, every single difficulty parameter they can kind of keep up with. Some of them dump their print volume with nitrogen just because it's a more stable gas for your 3D printer. It's like there's all of these extra edge cases, but again, they're like 100K. I did see a story on Reddit that I don't think you saw, Josh, and it was there's basically a guy on Reddit on the 3D printing forum, and he has a or he works in a manufacturing workspace, and they had I don't think it's Stratasys, it's another company, but a representative that came in that tried to sell them an industrial resin printer. I think they said something like $69,000. Yeah, for something that was not that much more advanced than like a Formlabs, which is like a tenth
Yeah.
or 20th of that price. And they're like, dude, there's no way. Like they only exist on the edge cases. So if we're comparing it to Stratasys, I don't think that's the right avenue of speculation, which is all this is. This is all speculation, which is the best bit, though, to be fair.
It would be kind of interesting if they went after. I wonder if they've done some analysis on I'm sure they have, on the Stratasys market, because Stratasys is suing them. I believe that's still working its way through the legal system, right? It'd be kind of funny if they just targeted the next most profitable thing that they do and just hammered.
Just nailed them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was actually talking, I had a conversation last night on my way home with one of my buddies here. And we were talking about manufacturing, and we're comparing Bamboo and Prusa, and we're just talking about the state of manufacturing in China and how ridiculously advanced Shenzhen and some of their engineers at DJI are, and how it's really difficult for the rest of the world to compete, because not only is it super cheap for them to do things, but they have all the factories and labs right there in Shenzhen. So and
they now have all the R&D departments as well.
It is so difficult to compete. Right. And even if you look at most products like Apple products, right, it's like assembled in the USA, but it's all made, I guess maybe not all in China. They are changing some of those operations, but yeah, I mean, it's
tricky.
They have managed to really create a juggernaut of a manufacturing industry in China. So, and we'll see. I heard from David this morning too, that he's loving his Bamboo A1.
Oh,
and he's already considering just going ahead and taking his Ender 3s and placing them to the side. He's like, he's in. So we'll chat with him when he's on. We'll chat with him on the pod. We'll get his intake and ideas.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, Josh, I wanted to bounce a topic off of you, and I basically want to chat about something that is that I want to be very open about to our audience on this podcast about a bit of anxiety that I have.
Oh, let's hear it.
So I'm a mechanical engineer, and my entire life I've always worked with mechanics, and I have on purpose avoided electronics, encoding, literally out of sheer anxiety of I will never be smart enough. I don't have an instinct towards it. I think we all have an instinct for mechanics, but it's like I can't. Like if an LED blows up, there's nothing that's like, oh, that's because of X, Y, and Z. It's like, okay, I need to do research. And there's all these extra things. And at many points in my life, multiple, I have tried, I'm gonna learn embedded hardware, I'm gonna learn Python, I'm gonna learn Arduino, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna learn that. And I have just not been able to get over the hump. I've always had a really substantial stopping point, and I'm kind of sick of it now, and I'm really going to try and dedicate next year to learning as much as I can. But I think one of the parts that was always missing from me wanting to learn electronics has always been this mindset of like, oh, well, I do woodworking over here, and I do welding over here, and I do metalworking over there, and they're all very separate worlds. And electronics has always been, well, what would I even make? What would I even do? And I think the different point now is that I'm not so intimidated about the electronics because I'm wanting to get into mechatronics, which is this really weird, like terminology-wise, it's this really weird gray area of mechatronics and robotics as well. There's a lot of overlap. It's kind of similar words, kind of. But I'm really sincerely wanting to get into it. And I think combining it with mechanical systems, projects that I can 3D print, I've got endless lists about it. Hey, Stanley Kubrick. I thought you died in the 1990s, but that's all right. Glad to have you with us. And it is, I've always had this anxiety with it. And I do sincerely think making projects that are mechanical with an electronic bend to it is going to be the ticker that can kind of get me over it, because I'm
want
not
a flapper display.
I do want that as well.
I really want a flapper display.
If you guys haven't subscribed to him yet, he used to be called JBV Creative. He's now known as Engineezy. He's a maker out of Canada that we've met a couple times at Open Source. He's
JBV, come on, man.
He's
Engineezy. I'm just gonna say it. Engineezy. Really?
I know.
Anyways.
It's so awesome, and the anxiety is not like, oh god, I need to learn this huge coding thing and I need to learn about APIs and motion tracking and all these, for me, really scarily high level stuff. I'm talking about, I want to make a project that uses like a couple stepper motors or a couple servo motors, or I want, just super duper simple things. Like, I understand it's simple and I still have that anxiety, and the only relation that I can hand off is when I was doing, like, when I took my first CAD class in university and we had our first bit of homework, and it was like, make a pulley by revolving a profile. And I'm like, even though I don't know how to do it, I understand that it's a simple process. I just don't know how to do it, and I'm anxious about it, and I'm really, and to this day, I'm like, I have all of these ideas and I can figure out the mechanics like that. I can do it in no time. I'm going to do full bar linkage, and this is how it's going to work. And I'm like, I don't know where to get started, because I don't know, because I want to approach this from a mechatronics or robotics perspective, but I also want to learn the dead basics of, like, Arduino is where I want to get started, which Josh has a huge amount of experience with. And I'm just kind of like, do I go for courses? Do I go for YouTube? Do I go for a book? Do I go for a maker book? Some of the code is old. Some of them doesn't work anymore. What kits do I buy? Do I buy an Arduino or one of those like rando no-name ones? I'm like, I don't know where to get started. And obviously we have a fantastic community that's going to be helping me. I do have a couple video ideas that I want to do in the future that are simple as can be on the electronic side. Just a little bit of coding here and there, but I do want to do it. But I want to ask my fantastically beautiful co-partner to see what's your opinion, because you obviously have a billion times more electronics experience than me.
Which is still a billion times less than people that are actually good at this stuff. I just want to be clear with our audience. Like, a billion times more than Jake is still just like one.
but like all of my projects in mind, it's like,
I'm gonna reflect. Yeah, I'm gonna reflect some of your thinking back to you. So first off, I'm gonna say something nice, which is, of the people that I've met in this world, very few have an ability to learn like you do.
Thank you very much.
So whatever it is that you needed to pick up, I remember that being one of the things that connected us early at the Makerspace, where if there was something you needed to learn, you just did it. You just read, you watched YouTube tutorials, you just basically brute forced it. You didn't necessarily have a perfect system for figuring out how to do it, but you're like, I'm going to watch all the videos, I'm going to read all the books, I'm going to take all the notes, and by tomorrow, I'm going to know enough to stand in front of a group of people and actually say something about it. Right? Mm. So I think this pressure for you to perform in front of an audience is actually one of the things that drives you to learn more. So what I would say is, why don't we put a date on the calendar? We pick a simple project, and on this pod live, you can explain to people what you did. I see the gulp. But that's what I think.
That is so funny.
That is exactly what I think you need. I think you need the pressure to perform in front of an audience, get scared, feel like you know nothing, and you're going to say a bunch of random BS, and it's all going to be wrong. Yeah. So Dan says pressure, and I'm going to play that song, by the way. Right. As we introduce that episode, remind me, we'll play the pressure song. But I think you need that pressure. And I think
demonetized.
I think you need the pressure. A. B, the nice thing is very true. It's that you have the ability to learn anything you need to learn, and you can do it quickly and well. It doesn't really matter that much where you start. It just matters that you start. So this is where I was going to reflect some of those ideas back. Pick a project you want to build and build it. That's it.
I have a very silly YouTube video. It's absolutely YouTube video project in mind that literally just uses one stepper motor
Do it.
And a fairly not a complex print, but a fairly complicated build. But it's simple electronics wise that I've been wanting to do for a little while.
Do it. Anything stopping you from just ordering the parts and doing it?
Kind of so all the kits that I see online where it's like, oh, it has an Arduino and then it's got 50 LEDs and such capacitors and resistors and all this kind of stuff. All of those kits and all of the classes that go with it, they're all projects or they're all about components that's like, oh, it's all just powered by like 5-volt, like through the breadboard. And all the projects, it's like, oh yeah, you can run a little tiny like 9-gram stepper motor because that's all the power that you can put into the Arduino that then goes into the breadboard and powers some LEDs and some this and that. And in my mind, the projects that I'm looking for, I think Connie was saying like the R2D2 project, which is just a simple project, but very, very big, if that makes sense. It's like, it's a couple motors. They just happen to have a lot of current going through them, but it's still just an RC thing. It's the same thing as a little tiny RC car. It's like, I want to do bigger power things. It's like, I want to have projects that have 10 servo motors running at the same time. And I recognize the complexity of the coding can be a little bit tricky. Okay, I can deal with that. There's a humdrum to it. But there's like, damn. Like, how do I power all of them? And then it comes into like the physics side.
I think I understand what's happening here. You're trying to run before you walk. So
yeah.
I would reflect the same advice we give to our students is pick any CAD software. Doesn't matter what it is. I don't even care if it's Tinkercad. Pick any CAD software and learn it. Get to know it. Because then that applies to the other softwares that you use. I would say the exact same thing about electronics. Pick any electronic project that seems simple enough and just do it. And realize that, okay, for this project, you might use an Arduino. For the next project, you might use a Raspberry Pi. And for one after that, you might use an ESP32. And for one after that, maybe it's like, oh, I want to design my own custom circuit board. Who knows where it will take you from
that's
there.
like I don't think I will ever get to that stage where I can design a custom circuit board.
I'll show you will. We actually know the guy, right? We know Robert, the guy that does the tutorials that we collaborated with. We could absolutely poke him, and he does a circuit board design class. So it's just like anything else. It's just a series of steps, and you connect parts together. But I think first and foremost is walk before you run. So just pick a simple project, get it working, find the limits of where that project will take you, right? So, oh, I tried to run 2 motors on this and I don't have enough power for it. Then you take the deep dive into power. Then you take the deep dive into microprocessors. Then you take the deep dive into all the other variables. But for now, I'd say just buy I think there's a $20 to $25 Arduino starter kit that I found when we were working at the workshop that had just enough stuff.
They're like $60 now.
No, there's other ones. There's one that's really tough to find. I'll see if I can find it from an old email or something like that. But even $60, like get one of those kits, plug it in your computer, refresh yourself for some of the basics, start using the breadboard, just plug and play, build that simple project. And I think you'll find after a couple of these little simple projects, you basically have the hang of it. It's like the CNC class. When I'm teaching the CNC class, I'm like, just get on this machine. Just if you can use this machine 8 times, you'll be better than somebody that used it 4. And I think there's a story. There's a story here too, and it's I'm going to butcher it a little bit, but it goes something like 2 different students were working on an art project. One student spent the entire year trying to get that art project just right, tweaking it and changing it. The other student made 300 art projects.
Yeah.
The student who makes 300 art projects wins every single time, right? You don't sit there and fiddle and think and consider, right? You just do. And you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again. So for Arduino, I would say step 1, buy that Arduino kit. I'll help you pick one out today.
Okay.
Just get it in the mail. Step 2, get those LEDs blinking, get some of the code loaded on there, refresh your memory for all the basics there. And then step 3 is apply that knowledge to the basic project. That's it.
One of the sources of my anxiety, which is I recognize is totally what's the word? Illogical. I think all phobias and anxieties are inherently logical, but it almost comes with this internal feeling of I should already know this. I should already know how to run, like how to code up a really simple little stepper motor. I have a degree, you know, and it's like, okay, finally doing it. Time there's been enough time. I'm going to do it. So
I
I
love
think
it.
that's where we're going to finish today.
Unfortunately, yes, we have my shared space is being used here in about 10 minutes. So sadly, to our amazing audience who continues to show up and get shafted a little bit on our usually hour pod, we are going to have to ring off a little early again today. But hopefully by next week, Jake, then you've got some Arduino in here and we can talk a little bit about, I actually think this topic of learning anxiety is a really, really important one for our audience. And I think it's also important that both of us put ourselves in the position of feeling anxious. So by the way, when I took the CNC position at Sac City College, I was super anxious. I'm like, I've operated a CNC. I know how to make parts, but I am not an expert, right? So I remember walking into my classroom on day one being like, what have I just done? Like, on what planet do I feel I deserve to be here? And I just had to brute force learn as fast and as hard as I can. And I'm still learning. So I think it's important for our audience to know, like, we're not world's experts in everything. We struggle just like you. We feel anxious and anxiety just like you. We take on tasks that scare us, likely just like you. So I think that's where we'll leave the pod. You can do it. You can do it, Jake.
If you guys have
our
any
audience, you can do it too.
Irrational anxieties.
Just as a reminder too, the challenge is still the same challenge we had last week, that microfarm challenge. Make something plant related. Whatever it happens to be, use those links for inspiration. We want to see what you make, and more importantly, we want to hear how you went about making it so that we can start to roll this out at scale.
And also, any of our students who have purchased the new Fusion Fundamental Workbook, either the instructor or the student version on Amazon, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Yes.
Please leave us a review. As always, that is the biggest help. That is the one thing in the Amazon algorithm that they look for. And so we massively appreciate it. So thank you ever so much from all of us, the CADclass team.
And this has been the CADclass podcast. Once again, I'm Josh.
I'm Jake.
And we will see you next week.
See you guys. Peace.